How am I supposed to make sense of Jesus when my dad was abusive or absent? Hi, my name is Ted Rosenblatt, and I'm here with my father, Dr. Rod Rosenblatt, and this is Talks with Dad Rod. We come at this a lot, or repetitively, that fathers model for us in an earthly way the Heavenly Father so that we can have a picture, and it helps us believe because we've seen it in action. It makes sense that a father can be forgiving and be there for us and soften the blow for us and fight for us and shield us from the evil out there and be that dragon slayer for us. So the boys and the girls can see this happen, and then they can grow up to be like in Lord of the Rings, Eowyn, in the case as the case may be. You know, because it's both sides. It's both men and women. Heroes are born out of these things, but it's modeled. It's made to model this, and way too many of us have the opposite. We don't have fathers that are there for us. We don't have fathers that treat us kindly. We have fathers that are abusive and drawn into their addictions and minimize us and break our hearts and
the mother saying, wait until your father gets home isn't good news.
I hated that title.
Yep.
I hated that little bit.
Yep.
It turned everything upside down that I knew about you. And that was a 60s show? Was that a 60s? 70s. It was a 70s show? And I saw that and I hated that.
Yep.
It was all law. It was all just wait till the hammer drops when he gets back.
Yeah. First of all, I think we have to acknowledge that the child who has the kind of father you're describing, particularly in years 1 through 7, which are just formative of everything, is really dealt a hard blow, one that lasts seemingly forever, for all of life. And you really hope that everybody you talk to had a father who in some way displayed some of the other, at some level or at some times, some picture of graciousness, or in spite of what you've done, or I don't see it that way. Your mother does, but I don't, or something. Because it is so difficult for those who have no pictures, whatever.
Or sometimes even the reverse, where a mom says, I don't see it the way your father does.
Right.
And the father is storming about, slamming things, breaking things.
Yes.
Or something. And the woman and the mom stands in as the grace giver in those cases. And that's really somebody.
Yes.
Somebody, or maybe even a neighbor or an uncle or
there are
a
only
friend.
two variables. Paul Fairweather used to say there are only two variables, mom and dad, and particularly in the earliest years. The literature on this is overwhelming, just overwhelming. You can check it out if you want to, but there are just dissertations written on this. And one of the places it shows up is people who cannot say, Our Father who art in heaven. It's just tragic. Everything that comes with that little phrase is negative. Everything.
It turns everything into the abuser who art in heaven.
Exactly.
The betrayer who art in heaven. The one who doesn't care about me who art in heaven.
Exactly.
Who could do without me, who doesn't, any number of.
Yep.
What a horror show.
Yep.
How hard is it then? How miraculous is it then to come to some sort of faith
and
believe in a model of in this the thing that the archetypes are supposed to point toward is the one, the Father.
Right. Yeah.
How do we have faith that there is a good God?
Yep.
When Father has been so miserable, such a miserable failure.
Yep. These people have just an awful time, and my heart goes out to them because they got early on formative things they didn't deserve and needed desperately the other.
Now, I've talked about your respect over and over again about adoptive parents, adoptive mothers, adoptive father, understanding like what you're saying, that it can't really replace when it comes after the 1 to 7 years or 0 to 7 years.
Right.
It can't do that. But as we've seen a number of times, it can still lift people out of the nightmare.
Absolutely.
It isn't perfect.
Absolutely. It's substantial, but not perfect. And significant for one who's gone through a fatherless upbringing or a really abusive father. That counts, and it'll count in their lives day after day after day after day as they grow older.
I just saw one that just happened, just passed in front of me on social media, like within the last 24 hours. And just, you know how social media is, you don't know when things could pass in front of you that were popular years ago or whatever. So who knows how old this is, but I hadn't seen it before. But it was something about the chef Gordon Ramsay. And there was some quip in there about, the one you don't see or they don't show you. And it had a video bit where he was speaking to this boy who I guess was a baker in a kitchen, or a young man who was a baker in a kitchen. And he was saying that he wanted to stay in direct touch with him. I'm going to give you my email because he said, I want to pay for all 4 years of your education. And this young man was trying not to just break down, losing it.
Yep. Out of the blue, grace. Totally unexpected grace. Mercy's one thing. It's a wonderful thing. Grace is even further. Think prodigal son.
And he said, when you're done and I get to enter your kitchen, all I want is a loaf of bread in payment, or in return.
Yeah.
And the kid just hugged him.
Yep.
And what do you have? There's no model. So this guy's not his dad. Who knows? I don't know. I'd have to go dig in and see what this kid's background is.
Sure.
But, you don't even have to have a bad background to see that and go, that doesn't happen.
Yep.
And it's not a lotto ticket. It's not like that. That's not what that is.
Yep.
It's undeserved grace.
Yep. Yep.
And this guy coming in from out of nowhere saying, well done.
Yep.
And that's what he did. He said, well done.
Yeah.
And the kid's just in tears.
Yep. Good illustration.
And those, so in my mind, I kind of put that in the same category as what you've talked about adoptive fathers, adoptive mothers,
sure,
who were able to do that when the failures who came before did not.
Yep.
The abusive father, the poor downtrodden mother who was under the same problem, and she couldn't, find the strength to deal with that. And, she was just trying to survive and make ends meet. And any number, the construct can be so horrifically bad. And you have been so forgiving of all the victims in those scenarios, but you have lived it in such a way that people being around you get that. And I think there's a something about who you are that seems to come through in the voice. People have described that about you for years on White Horse Inn, and the listeners can't put their finger on it. They don't know what it is about you, but there's something they just want more of.
It's my father, earthly father. That's a whole other subject.
Sort of, not really. It's an expanded version of the micro taken to the macro. So I didn't get through all of the things the ramifications that this can mean, but at least I wanted to stick to the adoptive part.
Yep.
Because there is great hope to be found in the fathers, the unanticipated, unexpected fathers and mothers that show up and do this sort of thing, or even friends, like we say, somebody who's just a mentor or whatever.
Yep.
Your elder of some sort who will be there for you and keep putting grace out there. We've seen a lot of movies that have that sort of thing.
Sure, and they're powerful because of it.
So this is a pretty big deal, and these things tap in. And Dad and I are always pretty emotional about this particular subject. So you get to see where, in a certain sense, where the emotional underpinnings of the theology we have and where we stand with our theology and our Christian faith. And it was modeled in this family in a way that many other families just not quite like this. And it's what we're doing here is bringing that to you. That's if you feel some of that, if you kind of have a question about that, or it feels really good and you can't put your finger on it, you get to be in Dad's house a little bit when you're doing this. And what you're feeling is the way it was with Dad all the time. So we hope you enjoy this. Come to 1517.org for more. And visit us on social media, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you for joining us on Talks with Dad Rod, part of the 1517 Podcast Network. This podcast and all 1517's content is made possible through financial support by listeners just like you. Please visit 1517.org for more, and please consider clicking on the donate button and making a recurring or one-time contribution to help us share this good news in a world which so desperately needs it.